In the name of Allah, the All-Gracious, the All-Merciful, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I take refuge in God from Satan, the rejected. My best greetings to you all around the world who are watching this video clip and attended in this course. I'm so honored to be at your service with another program in regard with the communications and propagation. The subject that we have talked about profoundly in our previous discussions is about the issue of the models and theories of communications. If you remember, we talked about major theories of communication. We talked about cultivation theory. We talked about different models of Berlow, Marshall McLuhan, about the model of Lasswell, Shannon Weaver, and we talked about helical model of communication. Also, we talked about the theories which are talked about this Soviet Union model, which the headquarters idea of the people and the idea of the the overlay people. Today we are going to continue that discussion. If you remember, we opened up a new theory in the issue of the mass communication, but it remained incomplete, so I have to continue from where we left off. We talked about the magic bullet theory and also hypodermic theory. You know, in magic bullet theory, if you remember, it talks about the issue that the effect of the mass media on the audience and target audience is very important. These effects, are targeted at the audience, and the effect of these messages that are relayed via mass communication to the people are like bullets. If a bullet hits a person, immediately it affects that person. The person dies, the person gets very hardly injured, or harmed, bleeding, and etc. So according to Clapper is one of the theories in 1960s, he says that the effects of media are in their maximum level of influence. So when they hit the audience, so the audience will get out of control in their, as a matter of fact, thinking, and they will not understand what is going on, because the effect of the message is very high, as if that a bullet hits a person. And it is somehow true. For example, if you look at your kids, your children, when they are watching a movie, immediately they show feedback to the movie. If it is a very, for example, bloody scene of one movie, so their soul will be somehow in problem, they will suffer, and they will remember the scene of that movie for several days or several weeks, and they will all say that, for example, father, for example, why that happened, why that person was damaged, why that car was in an accident, and etc. So the impact of the mass media products are very high according to Clapper. And there is one other media which we started up. It was the hypodermic model. As we say, if for example, when some serum is injected in your blood, in your vessel, it takes, for example, half an hour or sometimes 1 hour that for example, serum, that material which is injected in your body, after 1 hour, half an hour, it will affect your body. For example, if it is narcotic, in order to shorten your pain, so it will affect after the injection. But the point is here that the impact of a serum or injection ampulla on your body, is as if that you cannot understand at all. You don't get the message. For example, you continuously are thinking with yourself and you don't feel anything, okay? But the serum is injected in your body and it is running. So after 1 hour you will wake up, okay, or after, for example, 2 hours you will wake up and see that, for example, 1 liter of serum is injected in your body and you didn't understand it very smoothly. So it is hypodermic theory of, as a matter of fact, mass media communication influence on the people. Clapper has one sentence here that I attract your attention to that. He says, mass media ordinarily does not serve as a necessary and sufficient cause of audience effect, but rather functions through a nexus of mediating factors and influences. These mediating factors render mass communication as a contributory agent in a process of reinforcing the existing conditions. So, in this word, you understand that mass media are mediating in your body, in your thinking, in your mentality, in a line run. So this is an end to this model of mass media communication. There is one other theory of communication which itself is combined of 3 types. One-step flow theory, 2-step flow theory, and multi-step flow theory. In one-step flow theory, this theory simply stated that mass communication media channels communicate directly to the mass audience without the message being filtered or, as a matter of fact, by opinion leaders. It says that it directly affects to the audience. One-step flow theory. So the impact of the media is in this way, okay? And this theory, we can say that it is stated by Maslow, one of the theoreticians of the communication, in the name of hierarchy of needs. Maslow's model of hierarchy of needs, and also William G. Hutt in the Al-Mustafa University has stated that Maslow's hierarchy of needs says that in one-step flow theory, all the mass media are, as a matter of fact, targeting the media directly. There is no mediation. There is no person in between, okay? But there is one other theory in two-step flow theory. In two-step flow theory, it says that there are some leaders. They get the classified and also confidential news sometimes, and then they affect the audience. It is two-step flow theory. It is not direct. The leaders are in between. The leaders interpret the message which is intended by the media, and they affect the audience. So, in this, as a matter of fact, this model is good for, as a matter of fact, those communities and societies that there are many parties, there are many, as a matter of fact, spectrums in the society. Okay, there are leaders, social leaders, and especially in the revolutionary societies. In the revolutionary societies, they affect the, as a matter of fact, the audience. And in two-step flow theory, Lazarsfeld and Berelson and also Godet are amongst those who have paid much attention on this theory. And in multi-step flow theory, it is based on the idea that there are a number of relays in the communication flow from a source to a large, as a matter of fact, audience. So, in contrary to the first two types, I mean one-step flow theory and two-step flow theory, in this, as a matter of fact, in this part of the multi-step flow theory, the communication starts from one source to different groups and to different targets. This is another, as a matter of fact, this is another type of theory which is based on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, and it is, of course, important to know about this theory too. I mean, it is good from some aspects. If you want to affect the people from different dimensions, okay, you have to work in all these three types. Sometimes you need to talk to the people directly. For example, supreme leader of one country, the president, the prime minister, I don't know, talks to the people in public, speak, and etc. So it is direct mass communication. So this speech is very direct, okay? Sometimes mass communications are at the hands of the leaders of the societies. So the content of mass media will be referred to these leaders, and the leader will relay that to the lay people. And even it is plausible to think that sometimes, also it is included in this form, sometimes, as a matter of fact, one program is shown in the mass media, and that program, which is shown in mass media to all people, okay, will go to the homes of the people, but will be interpreted in different ways. For example, I, as an ordinary person, will see that scene or movie or program or talk show and etc., okay, soap opera, anything, I will get according to my mentality. But there are some leaders, they see or they watch the program too, okay, as I have seen. So we two come together in sessions in universities, in, for example, roundtables of dialogue, in panel discussion, we talk about that subject. That leaders will gratify us and also will talk and interpret what has been shown in the media. So this is another theory of communication, which is the flows theory, one-step flow theory, two-steps flow theory, and multi-step flow theory. There is one other, as a matter of fact, theory, which here is important to mention, is the theory of the uses and gratifications approach. According to this theory, it says that people normally uses and they select the programs that they like. Okay. According to this model, uses and gratification approach, since the content of the mass media and those messages which are targeted to the audiences are very high, okay, so, and are high in number, they are various, they are numerous. So what happens? It happens that the target audiences and those which are in different categories, in different classes, okay, people go and chooses those categories, those channels, those programs which are useful for them. If this model, if this theory is true, it means that you have to find the tastes of the people. and you have to work on the tastes of the people. If, for example, in 1 decade you can change the gratification level of the people, in that case you will be successful and you can inject whatever you want to the target audience. If not, so you will lose and you will miss many audiences. So this is another theory of the uses and gratification approach, which it reminds us that people use media for many purposes. As media users become increasingly confronted with choices, this approach should direct our attention to the audience. Lulz television research found that families use television for communication, facilitation, relationship building, intimacy, and for structuring the day. In general, researchers have found 4 kinds of gratifications. Information, we want to find out about society and the world. This is the first, as a matter of fact, kind of gratification. Secondly, personal identity. We may watch the television in order to look for models of our behavior. Okay, so for example, we may identify with characters that we see in a soap opera, for example. The characters help us to decide what feel without ourselves. The third kind of gratification is integration and social interaction. We use the media in order to find out more about the circumstances of the people. And the fourth one is entertainment. Entertainment, sometimes we simply use the media for enjoying, relaxation, and just for filling the time. Okay? So this was another theory of mass communication. So if we want to have a review of what we have talked about in our previous discussions and also in our today one, I have to mention that we have talked about different and major theories of communication, if you remember, and about the social responsibility theory. We talked about Soviet media communist theory. We talked about magic bullet and hypodermic theory. We talked about different flaws theory and also the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We talked about also the uses and gratification approaches. There are tens or hundreds other types of mass media and communication theories. However, these were the main types that we talked about in our recent 6 or 7 episodes in our previous discussion. So these are very useful models and theories that if you want to know about communication and propagation. I have to mention that if we can understand these models and theories, in that case we can use and take benefit of these points and these theories in our, as a matter of fact, introducing the religion to the people, to the different societies, to the different target audiences. So please know that if you want to be mastered in relation with others, I mean, if you want to be good in communication and also propagation and also talking and introducing Islam, you have to be mastered in these models and in these kinds and in these, as a matter of fact, types of communication. And especially we have to point out that interpersonal communication levels that we have talked about profoundly in our previous discussion, and also mass communication theories and models are very, very useful for us to get to know the audiences and to, as a matter of fact, theorize our behavior and structurize our mentality and our mental paradigms in talking to the audience. Until next program, that inshallah we will start talking about different techniques of propagation and also introduction of Islam and getting to know how to get benefits from the models and also techniques of propagation. I bid farewell with you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.